Piers Morgan has a big show called Uncensored. And that show, I have the pleasure and the honor of from time to time having the opportunity to defend Israel. And I was on his show the other day, and I tried my best to defend against the accusation that Israel is somehow doing horrible things to the Flotilla folks, the folks that came to break a naval blockade that Israel has on the Hamas enemy, who launched a horrific, brutal sexual abuse and murder war against Israel on October 7th. And now these Flotilla folks are doing a double whammy against Israel. One is that they're trying to break through a naval blockade. Are they bringing in weapons? They're working with Turkey. They're working with other countries to blacken Israel's name. So if they're not successful in bringing in whatever measly, food that they're trying to bring in, which they're not, if they're trying to bring in weapons, whatever, that's not what we found on the ship so far. But the main thing that they're trying to do is to blacken Israel's name, like going on Piers Morgan and telling them sad stories about Israeli oppression. Let's watch together my appearance on Piers Morgan and see if we can understand what's going on. Take it apart.
Political commentator and former advisor to Ben-Gvir, Yishai Fleischer, and the Gaza Flotilla detainee activist Alex Colston. Yishai Fleischer, welcome back to Uncensored. Look, we're getting a lot of different reports now coming in about Israeli abuse of Palestinian prisoners and detainees on these flotillas and so on. It can't all be just a figment of people's imagination. So what is your response to it?
I think that they were humiliated, but they were not abused. I think that the abuse narrative came about after the release of the May 2026 report of the horrific sexual abuse by Hamas. They wanted to counter this, and they started creating their fraudulent narrative about being sexually abused, et cetera, et cetera. The best one is that they accuse Israel of all kinds of physical violence, and yet there was no marks on them, right? You see them in videos coming in Turkey with their keffiyehs, and there's nothing on their necks, and there's nothing on their hands. There's no black and blue eyes. There's nothing. There is an image of a girl who's coming out with a neck brace, and then the next day she's smiling without a neck brace. It's a put-on. It's a put-on. They want to besmirch. That's their whole tactic. These are folks trying to break internationally recognized legal blockade of Gaza, which is part of war. It's a normative part of war. They're trying to break that. That means that they're enemy combatants. They were arrested. They were detained. They were humiliated. Definitely. They were humiliated, and they should be exposed for what they are, which is obsessed Israel haters. Did you notice, by the way, the necklace that Katrina was wearing? She was wearing a necklace that had the whole map of Israel on it, and she presumably thinks that should be all Palestine. In other words, she wants to erase Israel. That was the necklace that she was wearing on your show just a minute ago. She wants to erase and destroy Israel. She'll use any tactic, especially lies and the Christoph report about rape dogs and stuff like that. Sure. That's the new creation that they've manifested, that they've imagined in order to counter the true 250-page report about Hamas sexual abuse, about Hamas terrorists cutting off breasts and doing who knows what awful stuff.
Okay, so here, as you can see, I kind of opened up with a salvo. He asked me whether the flotilla thing, the accusations of Israeli abuse are a lie. And I said, yeah, they are a lie. It's a PR bonanza. It's a created PR story that Israel abused these flotilla folks who are, by the definitions of war, enemy combatants. They came in to try to break a blockade that whatever their guise was, this humanitarian guise, this put on, was indeed just that. And I called it out. I tried to call it out. And here's Piers. He's going to now show a video of this supposed abuse. Let's take a look at it together.
Very happy to believe absolutely everything that's been alleged that Hamas did, but absolutely nothing that's been alleged by what the Israeli forces have done. And I would simply play you the video of the young woman I just interviewed, Katrina Graham, who was detained on one of these flotillas. This is what happened to her.
Palestine!
I cut that because we don't.
You saw that video, right? She was pushed down. She was pushed down. She was made to sit, right? Now, honest to God, what did that look like to you? Am I saying it's like the funnest, nicest thing in the world? No. But that is not abuse. That is police action. That is detention. That is, you'd see that in any prison in the United States. I literally visited prison a few times in a professional capacity or in a student capacity as well. I saw 10 times stronger than that, 10 times rougher than that. And the same thing with police trying to subdue somebody that they're arresting. Have you not seen those police, TV shows? Did that look to you like a serious thing? Like a serious abuse? Wow. And Piers Morgan, right? He's gonna talk all about it again and again and again. It's like, is this a joke? And by the way, they didn't show these very same protesters in Spain and in Vienna being kicked the crap out of them. Right? And it was just like, and with gashes. And it's like, look what they did. Look what they did. Wow. They pushed the girl's head down, made her sit on the floor and shut up. Unbelievable. You see it, as we call it in law school, prima facie. You see prima facie that this is the extent of the concern that they have. This is it. This is their big proof. This video. I'm like, if this is the video that you have, how pathetic is this thing? How puny? What a joke. Right? It's like this is it. This is your big proof of abuse. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I'm telling you, you could just go to cable TV and watch one of those cop shows and you'd see like 10 times more in a minute. Piers Morgan's like, look at this abuse. Look, she was abused. Look, we get into a whole discussion about it.
To see the rest of that video.
That's the kind of police action.
Well, just to be clear,
that you would see. Anyway.
But just to be clear, she was shouting "Free, free Palestine."
Did she look like she was sexually abused there?
No, I didn't say that.
She was humiliated. She was detained.
She was physically. She was physically abused. She was shouting "Free, free Palestine."
Abuse is not the right word. That was a police action.
You're allowed to say "free, free."
The difference between...
Yeah, but my point is that even when you watch something, which
you can't tell us what you're allowed to say, not allowed to say. She was incarcerated.
No, I can say what I like.
See, he says he misunderstood me. He thought I was saying that you're not allowed to say. I mean to say you can't tell our police what are the levels or disruption that we'll tolerate. You can't tell us that. I was trying to say to him, but he misunderstood me.
I
can say what I like.
Don't tell me what she's allowed.
I can say what I.
Okay, but we don't. But
no, I know you're not going to believe it.
Pierce, but
I'm just saying though that
what we're going to do in our military actions.
No, that's fine.
We have to fight against enemies. She was accosting a minister, and the police brought her down.
She wasn't accosting anybody.
I'm in New York right now.
The video showed her accosting nobody. The video didn't show her accosting anybody.
She was part of a flotilla to try to break a blockade.
Who was she accosting?
She's therefore an enemy combatant.
Who did she accost?
She was accosting the minister. She was accosting the police.
When was she accosting anybody?
Riotous. By the way, Pierce, they were treated much worse in the Spanish airport and in Vienna.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about what the Israelis did to these detainees. On the very day that people
video,
like
if you want to use that video as proof of abuse, it's absurdity.
On the day that people like you, and you're perfectly entitled to, but were out there saying all the allegations of mistreatment of detainees are completely untrue and a blood libel against the Israelis and so on, Ben-Gvir, a member of the government, literally posts on his own social media clear, compelling evidence of a young female detainee being physically assaulted.
I would not call that assaulted. I would call that a police action. I think actually that video proves exactly the opposite. That's the extent of it. She was made to sit down. She was made to shut up, and she was causing a problem. They had a lot of detainees.
She was shouting,
they wanted
free,
to subdue
free
them.
Palestine.
She was subdued. She was subdued by the police.
Right.
And that's okay. I don't see that as abuse. The video speaks for itself.
Would you do that to a woman for talking in a way you didn't like?
If I was a police officer concerned with the riot, I certainly would. And I think that video, if that's the extent of the video that you're going to show, and then listen to the rest of their claims about sexual violence, et cetera, rape dogs, and all the stuff that they invent, I think that any a person with eyes could see that is not a proof of abuse. That is a police action that you could see on any corner of Chicago. Or,
I think if you don't think that's how people viewed it.
Okay, so you can see the disagreement that I had with Piers. And again, if you watch what these very same protesters went through in Spain and in Vienna, they were kicking the living daylights out of them with gashes and batons. And this girl was like pushed down, and Piers Morgan's making a big thing. And then he says to me, he says, well, you guys are claiming that's a blood libel. Well, I'm going to have to stand by that because it's really, it's an exaggeration. It's an exaggeration. That was not, she was detained as an enemy combatant. She was yelling in the prime minister's face, in one of the minister's faces. And the police subdued her for a second. She was under arrest. You think that in prison, do you think that in American prison, if you yell at one of the guards like that and you start, yelling some kind of protest thing, you're not going to be subdued? Of course you will. They know that if you allow such stuff to happen, then you're going to lose control. It's like self-evident to me. And I'm amazed about this proportionality problem. It was, I don't know. You tell me what you think. I'd love to hear what you think. But to me, it was really clear evidence of not abuse. If that's the extent of the video that you're releasing, I'm sorry. There was one more segment that was, I guess, important. So let's watch that. By the way, you're watching Yishai Fleischer TV. We do believe in building Israel together. You can be part of it. You can be part in building Israel together with me. Bezrat Hashem, with the help of God. Check out buildisrael.com. Easy. And do me a favor. Help us get over the algorithmic hump that we're dealing with. It's okay. You know what I mean? Our voice shall be amplified. And there will be platforms that will amplify it. Baruch Hashem. But do me a favor. Like, subscribe, comment. Makes a difference. Help the algorithm realize that this truth needs to get out. It brings balance to the internet. It brings at least a perspective. You don't have to buy it, but it's a perspective that's important. People talking a lot about us. Let us get our truth out there. Let's together make God's name great again. Simple. Okay, let's watch part 2 of this video. And here is another snippet from Piers Morgan's show.
Prime Minister Martin said he was appalled at the shocking behavior. Even Netanyahu said it wasn't in line with Israel's values. Emmanuel Macron said there was a lot of anger across the EU at the video. So you might be in a very small audience of yourself.
There was a humiliation done to those.
Well, there was actually a physical assault.
Flotilla,
we saw it. Let me bring in Alex Colston. You were also a Gaza Flotilla detainee. What is your reaction there? You just heard Yishai Fleischer saying that nothing to see here.
Thanks for having me on, Piers. If you both will permit me before I get into a debate that I'm not totally sure I want to have, just to get some immediate context about why the flotilla, set sail in the first place. Yeah. On top of the tens of thousands known to be killed in Gaza over the past 3 years, unilateral Israeli attacks have killed over 930 Palestinians, as Kat said. Daily aid deliveries have dropped to less than 100 trucks a day, drastically short of the needed 500 or 600 daily trucks with food and essential supplies. Palestinians in Gaza live with rampant infections, diseases, starvation, and chronic medical conditions that are killing them, while civilians are unable to access basic goods. And they also remain exposed to ongoing Israeli violence and environmental risks caused by Israel. There has been total and permanent damage inflicted on Gaza's decimated healthcare system and basic infrastructure. In Israel's torturous and depraved prison system, there are over 9,000 political prisoners, including 400 children. The UN has recently blacklisted, as Piers said. Israel is now aiming to control over 70% of the Gaza Strip, and the illegal settlements continue to expand. These settlements are illegal, and they involve violent displacement of Palestinians. Near daily Israeli strikes hit southern Lebanon. Over the weekend, Israeli airstrike with U.S.-made Apache helicopters killed at least 2 Palestinians and wounded over a dozen more at a crowd.
Here's just an example. Everything that he says is a litany of lies and boilerplate scripts, and he just reads it off blah 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 blah. This bad, this bad. You could say anything, right? Israel killed two Lebanese. Yeah, they were Hezbollah terrorists. They were shooting, so they got shot back, right? Israel is not the one that turned Gaza into a hellish nightmare. It's the folks that took over Gaza, when we stupidly and awfully gave away our land to the PA that got taken over by Hamas. Hamas took international money and built a terror system underneath there. Where's Alex, whatever he is, Alex complaining that, yeah, Hamas turned the whole place into a war machine, neglected its people, turned hospitals into military fronts, military bases, so that they could use actively civilian cover to shoot at civilians. Alex Colston, whatever's Colston, he's a fake. The whole thing is a fake. You can hear it's like la 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 la. I've been told to say this. I've been pre-programmed. I could say whatever because I'm a bot. He's like a human bot. He's out there to be a jihad bot. Jihad bot. Jihad butt. Okay, that's what this guy is, and he's out there spewing his lies. No proofs, inflated numbers. No bad guys. Of course, there's no jihad in his mind, right? We've got videos of Hamas murdering its people the minute that they have a chance. They're murdering Gazans. He couldn't give a damn about Hamas murdering their own. And he doesn't care about other problems around the world. Could not give a damn about human rights. He's only about one thing, the destruction of Israel. And I say this, and I'll say it in a minute, you'll hear it. He is a wolf in sheep's clothing. This is the modern iteration of that. He's dressed up as a liberal and a progressive and a human rights guy, but he's a spokesman for the jihad. He deflects away from them and takes all his human rights credentials and throws them at the only human rights country in the region, which is Israel.
A cafe near one of Gaza's seaports, a place where the flotilla potentially could have moored when it reached Gaza. Yesterday, apparently, some of the flotilla's solar panels washed up on Gaza's shores, but one Palestinian on the scene described as a small source of hope and care.
The flotillas have no aid on them. The whole thing is a sham. Israel supplies so much aid into Gaza, too much, right? Because it all falls in the hands of terrorists. But these guys weren't bringing aid. They had one goal, and that's to besmirch the good name of Israel.
And I say all this because you need the context for understanding why we sailed. And you also need the context to know that this is what the Israelis are doing daily, to understand that they're perfectly capable of brutalizing the flotilla participants, because they're perfectly capable, and they do, with well-documented evidence, brutalize Palestinians every single day. And they kill Palestinians in Gaza every single day. You're asking me to somehow question or debate the fact of Israeli violence. There's no world in which that makes any sense. It's a completely preposterous set of debate parameters. Clearly, the Israeli military and the Israeli forces are astronomically violent to the Palestinians, and I've witnessed firsthand that they were violent to me.
This is the same guy that claimed that he had his wrists tied in such a way that he lost feeling in them. Next day, he's fine. Not one mark on his wrist. They showed it. Another guy claimed that his neck was tied up. Nothing. No black and blue marks. No black eyes. Nothing. I witnessed firsthand. You're a firsthand liar. We also witnessed firsthand your incarceration and your release, and you were fine. So we know that you lie. You are a liar. Liar.
To the people next to me, tased, beaten, kicked. I've seen the bruises myself. The Turkish medical authorities kept them in the hospital until last Monday.
Oh, the Turks. The Turks kept them in the hospital. Have you ever watched TRT, which is Turkish anti-Israel television? It is a machine of propaganda against Israel. So yeah, they kept them for a few days in the hospital. That is proof of nothing. In fact, it's proof that they're part of the machination of propaganda against Israel.
Are they also lying?
Yes.
Are they also enemy combatants?
Oh, yes.
This is how the logic works. It's so.
What's illogical about that? Are they also lying? Yes. Are they enemy combatants? Erdogan. Yes. Which part of that? Where was the logical problem there? What? That Turkey is an enemy to Israel and they would do everything to destroy Israel? What's the logical problem?
Slippery. There is clear, systematic evidence of Israeli violence every single day. And you're asking me to debate whether that's the case. We know that's the case. So what's the point of this debate?
Right. We know because I said it's true, and therefore I don't understand why I should debate you, because clearly, eye rolling, I'm right. No, I won't present any facts because I don't have any, or I will present facts that are easily proven to be lies. But like, why should I even like engage with you? Because I'm so clearly, and that's the haughtiness of the progressive anti-Israel crowd. It's like, of course, but of course, would you pass the Grey Poupon? It's like it's like a haughty, posture, and that's their whole thing. It's just like a kind of a hot air, and he's like, I don't even understand why I should even speak to this non-human thing called Israel, called Jew.
Okay, Yishai Fleischer, what's your response to that?
Well, first thing is that the flotilla members themselves were accused of sexual misconduct on the ships, including this Diego Avila, that one of the Palestinian organizations were like, this guy's making sexual trouble for the other participants. But in any case, they weren't going to bring any humanitarian aid. The humanitarian aid comes through Israel. We have 100,000 humanitarian aid trucks have come in, 1.7 million tons of food, 55 tons of medical needs have come through. These guys, the flotilla guys, they're not about helping Palestinians. This whole thing is a sham. This guy is, in fact, a wolf in sheep's clothing. He's a pro-jihad shill. If you go through his X account, you'll not see anything about the Sudanese 14 million people that have been displaced, or the Iranian people that 40,000 people have been murdered in the streets, or Nigeria. He doesn't care. He has one goal. His goal is to besmirch Israel. That's his little role. He's a lackey of the jihad to do that. His job is to besmirch our name around the world. When he came off, he said that he was tied and his hands, we saw his wrists, nothing on it. The whole thing is a sham. He is part of an enemy combatant. He was treated as such by the Israeli military and the Israeli police. He was humiliated, as he should be, and he should be exposed for what he really is, which is an obsessed person with Israel, a person who lies constantly and consistently, a person who doesn't tell you the truth. I have been an Israeli soldier. I have been at those checkpoints. I've dealt with Arabs, and I know about the decency and the dignity that we have to maintain, that we try to maintain, while at the same time fighting the jihad, fighting a world with an ideology to destroy Israel, to destroy our small Jewish state. That's what this thing's about. These people, by the way, his organization, they don't even capitalize the word Israel. They purposefully decapitalize it so that they could be like, to show how repugnant Israel to them, how much they want to see it destroyed. He doesn't want to see two states living side by side. He doesn't want to see rights for Palestinians. He wants to see the destruction of Israel. That's what he is. He's just a wolf in sheep's clothing. He puts on liberal humanitarian, this look, I'm helping people. You're not helping anybody. You're just making trouble, and you were beaten, not by Israel, but by the Spaniards and Vienna and other places, beaten around the world for being troublemakers. In Israel, they were humiliated, as they should have been, and really they should be exposed for the liars that they are.
I want to thank Piers Morgan for having me on and give me the opportunity to speak. I wish that Piers would bring less of these haters on, but okay, that's where we're at today in this world, and at least I get a chance to counter some of those lies. And by the way, the other purpose that I have of coming on the show is not just to counter lies, but to also show a posture of strength and self-confidence, and to send a signal to the would-be haters that they're not going to stop us so easily, that we're not going to give up easily, that we have an inner force, a forthrightness, a truth that is not defeatable. They've got to know that. They've got to feel that. They got to feel that. They got to feel that when they start up with us. They got to be like, well, these Jews, they're not going anywhere. They're strong. They have a faith. They have an identity. And that's why also people who lose identity, a lot of the woke progressive types, hate Israel so much because it stands for identity and it stands for God. And it stands for resilience and push back against jihad, something that they've given up on. And so Israel kind of is embarrassing to them because instead of loving their Jews, they've kicked them out, they've hated them, and they've lost the plot, they've lost their countries. And so they hate us for that as well. Okay, I hope we had fun with that. That was really fun to be on Piers Morgan. I hope I get a chance to defend Israel some more. I want to remind you folks to like, subscribe, and comment. We are really putting out a lot of great stuff here. When I say like, subscribe, and comment, do it when you hear this right now. Don't do it later. Do it right now. It makes a big difference. All right. Yeah. So like, subscribe, and comment makes a big difference. And thank you very much. And if you are part of this thing that we're doing, then you are probably a builder of Israel and you believe in building Israel. So please check out buildisrael.com, buildisrael.com, and join us. Also, you could join us at buymeacoffee.com/Yishai. And you can write me an email, yishai@yishaifleischer.com, if you want me to come and speak at your community. That's right, folks. We're the Liberation Nation. We believe in the liberation of the world because we're moving from slavery to freedom. God bless you wherever you are. And todah, thank you, and shalom.